This is for 2.7 world markets. So the deadweight loss is the loss of efficiency that occurs when there is no balance between price and quantity. So I drew two people doing tug of war. So when it's balanced on each side, it works perfectly well. Everyone gets their surpluses, and it's balanced and efficient. But if one thing goes wrong, such as like a tear in the rope or anything, so if a tear happens, then it could break the rope, and then nobody gets it, which makes everyone lose something in it. And I also draw a triangle because the triangle is most likely the shape that the deadweight loss is in when it comes to seeing in a graph. The difference between a price ceiling and a world market opening is that the price ceiling is like set because the government issued it. This is just the limit that the pricing can get to, but the world market line can vary in whatever scenario that it's in. So it's not set on something. It just depends on how the how other countries collide and what the situation is. So it can go lower or higher. It's just not permanent. So if we opened up to world trade, and the prices were lower, so if we were at 10 as the equilibrium, and then the world trade line would be at $6, this would affect the supply curve, as the supply would be less, but then the demand curve, the demand would be more. And this would make local markets want to drop down the equilibrium to get to that price, because then it can equal out supply and demand better, and they won't lose so much when it comes to world trade from like the customers, because the customers would rather get something from somewhere else when it's a less amount of money, when it's when it's local, but it's more money. So the amount that needs to be imported and exported when the world trade line is less than the equilibrium, it would be, for example, if the equilibrium for the quantity would be 10, this would be 5, and then this would be 15, just splitting it in half. The imported goods would need to be would be 10, and then the exported goods, if it was 15 and 20, would be 5. So it's however many is in between when the world trade line crosses the supply curve and then crosses the demand curve. That's in between, that is the imported. So whichever numbers are in between that will be imported. You just find the difference. And then for the exported, it's whatever is after the imported. So whenever that last intersection between the world trade curve or line and the demand curve, and then once the demand ends and gets back to its, connects back to the x axis. So, and then the difference between those numbers. So I did 5 and 15 and 20, so this would be 10 and this would be 5. And then so for consumer surplus and producer surplus, the consumer, so when it's just the equilibrium, it would just be like just normal there. But since we lowered the the price, it would actually increase the consumer surplus and go all the way to the demand curve, and then it would go along there. So it would just go to the intersection and then go back up. So this would be, all of this would be the consumer surplus, and then from the supply curve, then and then up until the border would be the world trade curve or line. That's all your producer surplus. It was right in there. So the producer surplus decreases while the consumer surplus increases. So if the government put a tariff on the product, in the same area as imported, the import would still be the same. It'd be like 5 to 15, so it'd be 10, but the tariff would just be in that area, getting just putting on that extra dollar or whatever to that. So if a tariff is, so for a tariff, the normal amount of money that would be needed would be $10, but then for that tariff you need that extra money, so it'd be, for example, $11. But as this starts to as consumers start to see this, they would rather want the 11. So then, because it's from somewhere else, it's just like, it's just better. So sorry, it would be, yeah, so it would be better. But so then this equilibrium price would have to keep on chasing it, so then this price would start keeping going up. So this is where this would come from. So just so if this was 5 and then this was 6, that 5 would have to keep on going up just to become more and more. So then this is where the deadweight loss would be. And then again, deadweight loss is when there's like no efficiency between the supply and the demand, and so no one gets anything from it. So that's where that would be. And then the tariff, and then the taxes too, but like the area of the taxes would be this too. So the area of taxes would be 6 times, well, if I put this as 6, so this would be 6, and then times whatever you're importing, so that would be 10. So that area would be 60 of the taxes, because it would be in the same thing as the imported too. Also, consumer surplus, because of that deadweight loss, the consumer surplus would end up being just here and be cut off a little bit. So this would just be the consumer surplus. So it would decrease in the consumer surplus because it now has a tariff that they have to pay to get that. So that would be erasing that. But then the producers wouldn't really care for the tariff. They would just make the consumers pay. So this is why this is happening. So the producer surplus would just stay the same. So if I made the world trade line higher than the equilibrium, then no producers would want to import anything. Instead, they would be, this is where they would export. It would just, that's just what the impact would be. Because they're not going to get a lot of people, because of the price of the equilibrium would still be 10, which people would rather want. So they would be trying to, so then the world price would want to go down, but obviously right now I can't, like, it's just going to be higher. So they wouldn't want to import, they would want to export. So, for example, if I had 15 and then 20, they would have the difference between that, so 5. So they would want to export that. They would want to export anything after the intersection of the equilibrium, of the new equilibrium. Well, it's not, no, sorry. forget I said that. They would want to have export of the intersection of the world trade line with the supply curve, and then it would just keep going down, and then it would be underneath the demand curve. So anything of this they would want to export. So what my example was 5.